In this video, we'll factor quadratic equations that have a lead coefficient other than 1, but where I cannot divide the lead coefficient evenly into the other coefficient or the constant. So I start differently here. I'm going to multiply 3 times negative 4, and that gives me negative 12. So now my task is to find two numbers that will multiply to give me negative 12 and add together to give me negative 11. So it's pretty clear that it's 1 times negative 12. If I multiply them together, I get negative 12. If I add them together, I get negative 11. Now the factoring process is a little bit different. So I'm going to write down 3x squared. Now look at these two numbers. The negative 12 is evenly divisible by 3. So I'm going to group a negative 12 times x with the 3x squared. Then I'm going to do a little bit unconventional, but I'm going to say 1 times x minus 4. This all equals 0 because we started out with an equation. So here I'm going to factor out a 3 and an x. So 3x times x minus 4. And then here, it's not really conventional, but I'm going to say I'm going to factor out a 1 from the x and the 1 from the negative 4. So that's 1 times x minus 4, still all equal to 0. So now I'm going to group the 3x and the 1 together. 3x plus 1 times x minus 4 equals 0. So let's check to see if that really gets me back to here. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. 1 times x is positive x, and 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. If I add those two rows, I get 3x squared minus 11x minus 4, which is the trinomial that I started with. So I know this is the correct factorization. So now I need to use the zero product principle. So 3x equals negative 1, x equals negative 1/3, or x equals 4. And we can check that in our computer algebra system calculator. I have the equation here. So I'm going to go menu, 3 for algebra, 1 for solve, go grab the equation, and I need to tell the calculator which variable to solve for. So I put comma x, then hit enter, and I get x equals negative 1/3 or x equals 4. So that is correct. So we're ready to do another one, but I want to go over the very first one we did in the first video and do it like I do this. So I'm going to multiply the 1 that we normally don't write times the negative 15. So 1 times negative 15 equals negative 15. So I need two numbers that multiply together to give me negative 15 and add together to give me negative 2. So I'm going to use 3 times negative 5. If I add those two together, I get negative 2. So using the process we did before, I'm going to say x squared plus 3x minus 5x minus 15, still an equation, so it all equals 0. Here I'm going to factor out an x. So x times x plus 3. Here I'm going to factor out a negative 5. So negative 5 times x, and if I divide negative 15 by negative 5, I get positive 3. So I get x minus 5 times x plus 3 all equals 0. And we know that that'll give us x equals 5 or x equals negative 3. So now we're going to go do this one with the same process. So I can't divide through by 5, so I go 5 times positive 12 is going to give me 60. So I need two numbers that multiply together to give me 60 and add together to give me negative 32. So I know I've got to have a negative and a negative to get a positive and add together to get a negative. So I'm going to say negative 2 times negative 30. If I add those together, I get negative 32. So the 30 is evenly divisible by 5. So I'm going to group it with the 5x squared. So minus 30x, then minus 2x plus 12, all equals 0. Evenly divisible by 5, evenly divisible by 5, so I'm going to factor out 5x here, so that leaves me with x minus 6. Then here I'm going to factor out a negative 2, so negative 2 times x, and if I divide positive 12 by negative 2, I get a negative 6. So that gives me a factorization of 5x minus 2 times x minus 6. So 5x equals positive 2 by the zero product principle. Divide both sides by 5. X equals 2/5. Or x equals positive 6. We'll now check that in the calculator. Menu 3, 1 for solve. Go grab the equation, comma, x. So x equals 2/5 or x equals 6. That concludes this video, and we'll continue with the same process in the next video.